For Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. Israel and Hezbollah are trading strikes again as the death toll from a massive Israeli bombardment in Lebanon has climbed to more than 560 people, including 50 children and more than 1,800 others wounded. The United Nations Children Agency, UNICEF, says more children are likely dead under the rubble. Ravina Shamdasasi, a spokesperson for the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, is calling for an end to the violence.
Call on all parties to immediately cease the violence and to ensure the protection of civilians. One of our UN human rights colleagues in Beirut lost 7 of her family members yesterday, including 2 children aged 8 and 1 in an Israeli airstrike in South Lebanon. Roads in southern Lebanon are crammed with people in cars fleeing the violence. International humanitarian law is very clear. All parties to an armed conflict must at all times distinguish between the civilian population and combatants.
Thousands of people have fled from southern Lebanon, with the two sides on the brink of all-out war. The U.S. is urging Americans in Lebanon to leave as it's sending more troops to the Middle East in response to the sharp spike in violence between Israel and Hezbollah. The Pentagon declined to say what additional resources it's sending. There's about 40,000 U.S. troops in the region already. Activists are planning a national day of action against the war in Gaza and Lebanon in major U.S. cities today, including at the nation's capital, New York City, Houston, Seattle, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. Actions are also planned in Canada, in Toronto, and Ottawa. World leaders are gathered for the United Nations General Assembly in New York under the shadow of major wars in Gaza, Ukraine, and Sudan, and the threat of an even larger conflict in the Middle East. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres opened the meeting today, slamming nations that he says act with impunity in these wars.
They can thumb their nose at international humanitarian law. They can invade another country, lay waste to whole societies, or utterly disregard the welfare of their own people. And nothing will happen. Gaza is a non-stop nightmare that threatens to take the entire region with it. Look no further than Lebanon. We should all be alarmed by the escalation. Lebanon is at the brink. The people of Lebanon, the people of Israel, and the people of the world cannot afford Lebanon to become another Gaza.
U.S. President Joe Biden will also address the United Nations Assembly today. It will be his final address as U.S. president before the UN. Climate activists are gathering in New York for Climate Week. More than 30 people were arrested at a protest outside the headquarters of investment bank Citigroup Monday. Protesters had been demanding a meeting with city executives to discuss what they say are the company's racist financing of dirty energy projects. The protest was in part a response to a newly released report linking premature deaths in communities of color to air pollution produced by projects funded by Citigroup. Hannah Sago is a senior climate finance campaigner with Stand.Earth and a lead author of the report, Citi, Funding Fossil-Fueled Environmental Racism in the Gulf South.
We found that by providing at least $1.6 billion in financing for 4 LNG export terminals in Texas and Louisiana, Citi could be associated with up to $36 million in health costs per year, 2 premature deaths per year, and 10 new childhood asthma cases every year. And if those LNG export terminals operate for an expected lifespan of 35 years and those deaths stay constant, Citi could be attributed with as many as 80 premature deaths from the air pollution of the facilities it's financed.
California is suing oil giant ExxonMobil in the first of its kind lawsuit, alleging it engaged in a decades-long campaign to deceive the public about plastics, claiming they can be recycled while knowing they cannot. Exxon is the nation's largest producer of polymers, which are used to create plastics. Christopher Martinez has more.
No more. Today, we're saying enough. No more deceiving consumers, no more greenwashing, no more Californians footing the bill and enduring the damage of ExxonMobil's plastic pollution deception.
The lawsuit, 147 pages long, but the table of contents alone tells a detailed story, saying that Exxon began promoting plastic recycling back in the 1970s, despite knowing that it was not feasible. with resulting harms to California's environment and its residents. Allison Chin is president of the Sierra Club.
Plastic pollution has risen to be one of the defining environmental issues of our time. Plastic waste has touched every inch of the globe, from our rivers and oceans to roadways and coastlines. By 2050, there will be more plastic in the world's ocean by mass than fish. Microplastics are even found in the air we breathe, the food we eat, and the water we drink.
Reporting for Pacifica Radio News KPFA, I'm Christopher Martinez.
I'm Christina Onestad, reporting for Pacifica Radio.